Oikos presents 15 Seconds of Strength.
Here we go. Steve's got a trunk full of groceries and no one to help him.
Oh, that's tough, Jim. Looks like a 5-trip load at least.
He grabs the first bag, the second. Bob, it looks like he's trying to do it all one trip. He shimmies the door open, steps over the dog. Oh, and he stumbles.
Oh, right into the kitchen without missing a beat. Jim, now that's a man who eats his protein-packed Oikos.
With 15 grams of complete protein in each cup, Oikos Triple Zero can help build strength for every day. Oikos, stronger makes everything better.
Hello and welcome back to the show. I'm Patrick. I'm here with Ben. We are joined by our friend Jameson. How's your summer going, Jameson?
It's good, man. I think maybe it is unique to us, but I have a sense that it's not. Summer's a weird time inside of gyms, particularly like ours. Lots of travel. Classes, like the big classes become the small classes and the small classes become the big classes and the dynamics all messed up and you don't get to see your friends that you normally work out with and the vibe's just different. But the summer energy is cool. People are just kind of like chill. And it's also been cool for us to see our people very specifically start like applying fitness outside of the gym very intentionally this summer. And I think I'm just more like in tune to that in general right now. And so maybe it's always been the case and I'm just seeing it more now, but that's been really cool to see as well.
Cool. Well, last time we had you on, we talked about yours and Ben's respective decisions to exit out of the CrossFit affiliate space and kind of go your own separate ways. But in truth, the conversation we're going to have today was actually the one I wanted to have with you the last time. It was just the timing made sense to have that one then. But I've been sitting on this question from a listener. His name's Drew. Sent this to me probably over a year ago. And I've literally been sitting on like, I want to have this conversation with Jameson. We just needed to find the time for it. So that's what we're going to do today. Here's Drew's question. It's quick. And I think we're going to have a kind of a fun conversation. He says, my thought exercise, if you could realistically form a 5 factors community, how would you? I'm not talking about a commune, but maybe a neighborhood or network of like-minded individuals. I'm inspired by homesteading, sustainable microgrid, etc. So I thought it'd be kind of fun. You guys obviously running gyms, doing your best to bring this idea of the 5 factors sort of into a real life space, the space that Ben and I have been trying to occupy for the last number of years. So that maybe we can talk about that. I think we're going to start though with just Drew's question, and Ben, I'll throw it to you first. First initial thoughts on this idea, this 5 factors community. Where does your head go? Where do you want to start?
I want to start by let's do it. Let's make one.
Let's do it.
So this has been, Heather and I, we talk about this all the time. Even like our own little small micro community that we have here, is we've talked about like put up the bubble.
Yep.
We have a doctor, we have a dentist, we have people that can grow plants. Like it's like this would be super cool.
Those are the only 3 things you need: doctor, dentist, person who can grow plants.
Yeah, right. So that's where, so that's my take on it. I'm done. Jameson, just kidding. Right, so we've talked about this, and we've also talked about, what would be next. And this is just such a cool thing to romanticize about, to envision, to imagine, to storytell, and play the game of what would this look like if you were to take the thing that we've done for the gym and turn it into literally from a 60 minutes 4 times a week to a 24/7.
Yep.
Like, what would that look like? And, I've given this thought. Like,
Good. So let's get the conversation started. Give us where you're at.
All right. So I'll go step by step, and then we can talk about each step if we want to.
Cool.
Okay. First step. Create the ethos, create a manifesto. What are your shared codified values? Step number 1. Step number 2 is start with a distributed but connected network, meaning it doesn't need to be in local. It doesn't need to be in a neighborhood, but connect people from afar, network, not land type thing. Create a online community, somewhere where people are congregating, sharing values, having conversations. Then have like a little bit of some monthly meetups, and maybe it's the same people every time, maybe not. And then from there, kind of step 2A is do a founders weekend, like where everyone comes together and we kind of like, hey, this is what we're going to try to create. From there, pick a location. Location close to an airport, lots of sunshine, close to nature, walking trails, mountains, rivers, oceans, something like that. So you can get out and do it. Also, ideally, a place that doesn't have lots of, I'm going to call it like regulation. So you don't have to, you can like build stuff without going through lots of red tape to get businesses set up, put up structures and stuff like that. From there, create a hybrid where people are sort of coming and spending time, but they're also going and living back in their own place, connecting online remotely in between. Next step, geographical local cluster. Like we're moving to this place, building the infrastructure, building the shared barn, gym, the outdoor kitchen, the shared community eating space, the living space. Everyone owns their own. This isn't like a commune or a camp. Everyone owns their own home, but like some place where you could imagine if it was a cul-de-sac type thing where one of the lots was communal, right? But everyone owns their own homes.
Yep.
But a communal one with the barn and the outdoor kitchen and the eating space. From there, host regular experiences to bring the whole thing to life. A couple nights a week, community dinners, every morning, workouts, evening, wind down, text free, meditation, hikes, walks, stuff that gets people together with shared activities that we all believe in. I would keep it very social, very optional. So what does this not become like rules? Like you have to show up to this thing. It's like you live here, you want to participate. If not, don't. But like you kind of get as deep into it as you want to keep it autonomous. Then from there, once you have that core group set up, you name it, you invite others. And then I think the best step is the last step. You create a school. Mm-hmm. And I have another additional 5 or 6 steps on how I would do the school.
All right, let's
but the school basically, like, but to start, the school would be set up on what we'd be teaching is health, wealth, and wisdom. Mm-hmm. Health, wealth, and wisdom. So health, 5 factors. Wealth, like truly, like how do you truly create, not like what normal academia teaches you, but like how do you actually navigate, this would not be like a hippie commune. Like, let's go and like make and earn and create financial freedom and prosperity, and money gives you so much opportunity to do so much good in the world. Let's go and like teach people how to actually do that, from entrepreneurship to leadership to emotional intelligence to investing to what does your relationship with money actually look like. And then wisdom, meaning like wisdom is not just knowledge. Wisdom is how to live a good life. The Stoic philosophy of the virtues of, discipline, courage, love, things like that. Mm-hmm. Okay. That's my model. That's how I'd roll it out.
All right. I want to come back to the schools thing because I think it's really interesting, but let's maybe go back to the beginning. Jameson, just hot take on whatever popped out at you in those, I think there were 6 steps, maybe 7.
So I'm also in.
Hard sell, Jameson. You're a hard sell.
Yeah, dude. I think that the very first factor that comes to mind across the 5 factors of health, whenever we're talking about a dynamic like this, is the connect factor, the relationships factor. Yep. And I have, for as long as I can remember, been a proponent of like committing to these like monastic style relationships that you're just in it for life. And it's not just entering into like marriage is the only one that you're committed to forever, but so are friendships and relationships. And in large part, I mean, we know this like primally, it is how we were really designed to operate in community and in relationship with other people anyways. There's definitely uncertainty involved, but there's a lot less uncertainty than currently exists in our relational temperature and our relational sphere of this person may move geographically, but there's also just this really high level of acceptance that relationships can be very transient. Not only are they mostly transactional, but they can be very transient in terms of they come and go, and they don't impact you that much whenever you gain and lose relationships. And so when I think about it just from the connect factor of health, this idea of a long commitment of relationship in community is really significant. I think that's where like you begin to actually learn more about yourself and learn more about the people around you, is when you make these long-term commitments that regardless of the growth that needs to occur, the friction that occurs in the relationship, you know that exiting the relationship is like last option. Like it's maybe there, but your commitment is to working through the friction together. And oftentimes that kind of commitment in relationship is reserved particularly for marriage. And unfortunately, not even then in a lot of ways now. So it's really attractive to me, this idea of like creating truly deep, transformational, like soul level connections with other human beings. And it's really hard to do that without being in the day to day with people. Mm-hmm. So I'm really compelled by the concept. Regarding the other factors of health, I think what it does is it practices this idea of, rather than having to work so hard to make good decisions, you are designing your environment to support the decisions that you want to make. And that is, I mean, that's like behavior adjustment 101 and growth 101, is create more friction between you and the things you don't want to do, and create less friction between you and the things you do want to do. And that's what Ben's talking about, is creating not a frictionless state, because we're humans and you're not going to put humans in the same place together and have a frictionless state, but one where it's easier to focus on the most important things because the stuff that creates distraction from that is managed. So I guess that's my take on why I'm in. The part that I would not push back on, but just ask, is it feels like this stuff falls apart even when you're like conceptualizing it. It feels like this stuff falls apart and it creates this like cult-like esque feel whenever you bring in regulation. So step one for you was to develop shared values, a shared vision, a shared mission and purpose statement that becomes like codified through principles and practices and priorities and all of that kind of stuff. What happens whenever you get to step 5 or 6 and people are geographically in the same location and people start to operate in the antithesis of those values? Who implements the, for lack of better terms, disciplinary measures that upholds the culture? That's where I don't know how you manage this relationship between autonomy in a community like this and staying true to principles and values. Like that's where it's different than a company or an organization. So I'm curious how you would manage the leadership of that.
I don't know the answer to that. Right? It's so this is a thought experiment, right? So this is not the 2026 rollout plan. If this was the type of thing that I kind of laid out, which is it's a neighborhood, right? And you buy a plot of land and build your house and there's this shared space, you don't. But I don't want to live in a neighborhood that has values different than mine. I want to live in a neighborhood that's similar. So I think that there would be a big self-selection process that people would just kind of like seed themselves out of that. It's much like what happens, as you know, in our professional organizations when you are so clear about what you stand for, people don't sign up for it in the first place that don't agree with it. If you're like, we work our asses off, we work so hard, we are going to be here at 10 o'clock on Friday nights. You know, there is no work-life family balance. I'm not saying this is ours, right? But there is no work-life family balance. It's Goldman Sachs. Like you're going to work 20-hour days. You're going to sleep under your desk. It's going to be a grind. This is the Navy SEAL Hell Week of the financial world. Are you up for it? And most people are going to go no, and only the few people that are going to say yes. Any people that think that they are, after 3 months, are going to go, this is it for me, and they move out, right?
Yeah.
So I think that it's more about less about policing than it is just espousing and living out and keeping it alive, keeping them real. Like we do get together for workouts. We do go do these things together. This is what we believe in. We are doing these things. And if somebody's not going to be a part of that, then I don't know, like, okay, like you're not going to be a part of it. I don't know what the benefit of what you get out of living here, though, because everyone else is a weirdo to you, you know?
Yeah.
But everyone else is like, this isn't weird. This is exactly what I want. And it's very much what we've talked a lot about is just create this environment of I love the quote, and I know you do too, which is, it's no measure of success to be well adapted to a profoundly sick society. And that's where we are right now. So what we're saying is, let's create a society that doesn't measure ourselves based off of other values. The wealth and the status games. Like, that's not what we're about. We're about living great lives by our measure, right? Which starts with health, because if you don't have health, you really don't have a lot of options. So can we create a lot of freedom, and not like rules and regulations, but people go off and do their own things as well. I think that's the place. I don't want this to be a place with rules and regulations, and if you don't do it, then you get kicked out. Like, that's not the way I would set this thing up.
Cool.
How big would you imagine in an ideal state, Ben, I mean, I think what we're talking about is a neighborhood, so we can use that as the phrase just for now. But like, how big is that neighborhood in your mind before it gets too big or before it's too small to be as impactful as you imagine it is?
Yeah, I would say probably about like 150 people.
Yeah.
I always think that's always the kind of the default. Like, as big as you can get before losing real relationships with everybody. Which, if there's families of 4 or 5. If that's kind of the way we're doing this, maybe there's some individuals in there. We're talking somewhere between like 40 and 60 families.
Yep.
Something like that.
That's the Dunbar number, right? Like 150 is where you start to have a loss of actual connection and like authenticity with people.
But I think that even if you were to do this as like, start off with like a dozen or half a dozen families.
Yeah, man.
Like that. Like, that's where I would start with. And if it grew to 4x that, cool, right? But even if you had imagine having 10 families in a neighborhood that were like, this is what we do. Like, we have a shared garden. We have this plot of land that we take care of and protect. We have this community gym that we do. And everyone in the school thinks that this is the way we should be teaching our kids. And we have every Friday or every other Saturday, there's a dinner. Every other Saturday, there's a dinner together. That seems really cool.
Yeah, I would think that you should consider yourself like very relationally wealthy if you have one other family that you can practice that kind of connection with at this point.
Right.
Or one set of friendships that you can do that with. I think, like, to your point, Ben, when you're talking about behavior modification and behavior management, that is like the opposite of what you want this to be, because that doesn't make it really autonomous, authentic, or free, I guess. And so we've talked a lot about this. Our tagline, our slogan at the gym is the better way. And it's a bit ambiguous in that it doesn't really mean anything specific other than this constant invitation or challenge to go, is there a better way to do this thing? Right there.
That's a good street. The better.
Yeah, the better. Yeah.
Okay, so we got the street name that this is going to be on. The better
Perfect.
I live on Better Way.
You just made it a website.
Yeah.
The betterway.com.
Yeah.
But I think, and I think ultimately, if you are operating the way we view that is, if you're constantly inviting or challenging yourself to operate with this concept that there could be a better way to do something, first of all, that's constantly iterative and just is committed to constant improvement, because better doesn't mean best or final. It's just, I'm at this point now, is there an opportunity for me to elevate the way that I am doing this thing, seeing this thing, or operating in this way? But it also is more of an intangible thing where if you are committed to that lifestyle, it should create such a compelling picture of how you could live and how good life could be that, like you said, the people who see that are like, oh, that's fascinating, and I want to do that. And it's way more about creating a compelling picture of what's possible than it is about like demanding that people adhere to some certain behavior or like code of conduct, which is a much looser way and human way to do something like this. And it takes the control out of the quote unquote leader's hands and instead puts the responsibility on the leader to constantly align with those values and create a personally compelling picture of what's possible. And so it's just like a much more authentic human way to do it than this idea of like regulation and modification. I don't think that lasts very long at all.
Are there
Yeah, I don't think
are
it's
there
needed.
leaders in
It's
this?
sorry. Yes, there are, but they're voluntary and they probably rotate. So a part of this is the way I'm modeling this off of is, in the summers we go to there's a community club
Yep.
that we go to. It's about 800 people, and there's someone runs it every 2 years. You take before you run it, you are the vice, so you're that for 2 years. Before that, you're the assistant to that. So you kind of take these 6-year stints where you're like just getting your feet wet, 2 years of helping out, and 2 years of running it. Different people take different positions. From somebody handles the finances of the club, somebody else runs certain programs. So, and they're all voluntary. No one gets paid anything for it, and people do it. They raise their hand. The cool part about it is some of the things I mentioned are already there. There are these activities. There is a routine yoga already. There is these bi-weekly dinners that happen. We celebrate holidays together. And what's really cool is no one ever said anything about this, but I really appreciate it. There's this sort of unwritten rule, at least amongst the adults, that you're not on your phone. So everyone's hanging out. No adults are on their phone. It's really cool. Now, the teenagers are still kind of doing it, right? But the little kids aren't, and the adults aren't. And that's pretty neat. And no one said anything is the big thing. No one ever said, we don't use our phones here. And that's where I think that if you instill this culture, right? It's a culture thing, not a rules thing.
Yeah.
So it's one of those that you can have leaders, but they're not voted on, and they're not the ones that hire and fire the others. They're just you take your turn, kind of the way that government used to be. Government used to be that, which is after you had enough success individually or as a family professionally, it was your turn to give back. And that's how you gave back, was called public service. That was a governmental role, public service. Now people go there to get wealthy, which is kind of wild and famous.
We're brought to you by Function Health, the only health platform that gives you access to over 160 biomarkers to help you achieve true health freedom and peace of mind. Visit functionhealth.com/excellence to start your journey toward data-driven wellness. We chose Function because healthcare's normal hasn't evolved like just about everything else in our lives. Think about it. 20 years ago, skincare was basically just a bar of soap, and now it's a 5-step routine with serums and red light therapy. Taxis became rideshares, TV became streaming, maps transformed into GPS. But healthcare still stuck with those same 20 basic markers, no hormones, no inflammation insights. And if those limited tests come back in range, you're told, well, you're fine even if you don't feel fine. Function is healthcare finally catching up. You get access to over 100 biomarkers across your entire body: hormones, metabolism, inflammation, heart, liver, and more. This awareness of your internal health creates the freedom to take intentional action toward what truly matters. So take control of your health journey and visit functionhealth.com/excellence to join Function Health today. This episode is brought to you by Ridge, who understands that chasing excellence means focusing on what truly matters, even in your everyday wallet. Get 10% off your Ridge order at ridge.com. Use the code excellence when you do so. Just as we talk about eliminating distractions and focusing on what's essential in life, Ridge has stripped away everything unnecessary from the traditional wallet. What remains is what truly matters: a sleek, durable design that perfectly carries your essential cards and cash. It's available in over 50 styles and colors. Mine is what they call the Alaska Twilight color, which is just a fancy way to say purple. And they're crafted from premium materials like titanium and carbon fiber. The minimalist design isn't just about aesthetics, it's about making intentional choices about what you carry with you every day. With RFID blocking technology, it delivers peace of mind knowing that you're shielding your credit cards from skimmers and data theft. Transform your everyday carry at ridge.com, and for a limited time, don't forget to use the code excellence for 10% off. After you purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them. Please support the show and tell them that we sent you. We're brought to you by Momentous, the nutrition company that's setting the gold standard for science-backed supplements that support your physical and mental freedom. Visit livemomentous.com and use the code excellence for 35% off your first subscription to the Momentous 3, your foundation for lasting health. You know, when we talk about health as freedom on this show, we're talking about building a foundation that lets you chase what truly matters. That's exactly why we personally use the Momentous 3 every single day. They're high-quality protein, creatine, and omega-3s. Whey protein helps with muscle recovery and immune function. Their pharmaceutical-grade creatine supports both physical performance and cognitive function, and their pure omega-3s are sourced from low-mercury fish to support brain health. What I love most is their commitment to quality. Every product is NSF or Informed Sport certified with 0 artificial ingredients or fillers. Head to livemomentous.com. Use the code excellence for that 35% off your first subscription to the Momentous 3. What is lacking in your minds that makes this such a radical idea? I'd be curious to walk down that road a little bit. Like this really is a radical idea if you look at the way everybody lives currently. Why is it in your minds that we've gotten to a place where an idea like that for people like us are like, sign me up for that immediately? Because it's so the opposite of how we seem to have sorted ourselves. Why is that?
Well, it's all based off of values. It's all based off of what do you think is important. And as Jameson said, if you're lucky enough to have a family near you that has the same shared values, you should feel lucky. We're just back in the day, the chances of you having the same shared values as all of your neighbors was very, very high because you were all farmers. You were all the same religion, and you all were born in the same country. It's this idea, right, of like we all came from the same path. It's not a good or a bad thing. It's just that there's more information. There's more opportunities. There's more things to say, this is what I want to go down. So it's the reality of the world in which we're in right now is that you can have access to something and go like, oh, wait a minute, no, like I was brought up this way, but I actually don't believe that. I believe this. And now you have this dissension even inside your own family. For survival reasons, that couldn't have happened 100,000 years ago or even a few 10,000 years ago. You needed total alignment amongst the tribe. And if there's one dissenter, we'll call them, that dissenter either broke off and started their own where everyone believed that thing, or they went off as a recluse and lived in the woods by themselves, or they were shunned from the community and or killed. So it's this idea that we all have this so much safety is the real thing now, that we are free to go and do this thing, that it's an opportunity. So now what we have to do, though, is the flip side of that is now we have to search for it. It's not the default. Just like everything, now we have to be intentional with trying to create the tribe because it's not there for us like it was before. In the Native American community, this was like the default, right? Like great book, Sebastian Junger, Tribe. It's phenomenal. Like everyone there feels so much connection because of the beliefs and the rituals and the tribal aspect to it and the heritage and the ancestors and all of the stuff that came with being a part of that group. We don't have that now. That we don't have these strong tribal alliances.
Yeah, I mean, everything Ben just said, I feel like lit up so many different parts of my brain that wants to go so many different directions. And interestingly enough, I think the one I will go with is what it reminds me of is all-time great movie from The Jungle Book, which is the strength of the wolf is the pack and the strength of the pack is the wolf. And honestly, man, the wolf individually has become so emaciated and weak. And to put that into human terms, as people in society, typically, like the standard has become distracted, weak, wildly purposeless, To use some language Ben and I have talked about, it's just like the individual is drifting through life now. There is not awareness, there is not intention, there is not action. And so I feel like a key component is the fact that maybe it's like a dual partnership between distraction and adversity, or lack thereof. Like we've gained too much distraction, and we lack enough adversity that we've been able to live without any real sense of awareness, intention, or action. And the result of that has been just a community filled with these individuals who have over-indexed on being separate and being isolated. But at an individual level, we're also so weak in our identities that if what Ben is talking about is a community is essentially a group of people who have chosen to grow together. A community is a group of people who at the fundamental level see and believe the same truth. You can't do that in a group of people if you don't even know what you believe individually. And I just would argue that most people don't know what they even believe. Like they just believe kind of automatically whatever it is they're ingesting and consuming on a consistent basis. So yeah, I feel like it's that concept of the pack is weak because the wolf is weak, and the wolf is continuing to become weaker and weaker and weaker and domesticated and whatever. And so the pack is just like, is suffering because of it. And I think, to use Ben's safety word, I wasn't gonna press on this.
Oklahoma.
I wasn't gonna press on this, but him saying that safety has been a real trigger that has led us in this direction. I think of it, in fact, related to religion. And nothing will really reveal to you your belief systems, and if you are actually going to align belief and behavior, like being persecuted for the things that you believe. And so this like really intentional adversity against the thing that you believe is going to wildly refine your behaviors and beliefs. And we just don't have that anymore. Like, we're not challenged with that kind of adversity in any way whatsoever. So what you're basically doing is just asking a bunch of distracted and weak people to gather together in a community. What do you think is going to happen? Like, there is no identity. There is no shared vision. There is no shared value. There is no shared purpose or mission, because there isn't that at the individual level. And I guess it is this idea of just like consumption, distraction, and a lack of healthy adversity that's led to that.
Yeah. James, just so to see if I can understand what you're saying is, one of the things.
Yeah, please help me understand what I'm saying.
No. I think it's clear, but one of the things I think that I'm picking up is this idea of, like, if you were to commit to a thing like this, a neighborhood like this, a community like this, this ties even a little bit to what you said at the start of this, which is like truly committing to relationships, not dipping your toe in and saying, is this going to be good? Oh no, it makes me uncomfortable. I can exit this easily and quickly. By committing to a lifestyle like this, you have to truly first believe it, but then you have to prove to yourself continually that what you believe is what you believe, and not what you said you believe because you thought it was popular or easy or what would get you approval from strangers or whatever it might be. In other words, like, it's the commitment in and of itself almost that is part of the value stack of a community like this. The fact that you are being made to commit every single day in a world that almost to a T is trying to make it really easy for you not to commit and be able to pull yourself out of discomfort whenever you'd like.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's it across the board in all areas of life, regardless of which factor of health we're talking about. Yep. It's very much I want to be the kind of person who commits to long-term relationships and authenticity and friendship, or I want to be the kind of person who eats healthy, or I want to be the kind of person who exercises and trains every day. And there is a big, okay, we'll see, that should be tacked on to that, because you don't become that kind of person through the desire to be that kind of person, but rather through the discipline of actually being that person on a consistent basis. And I don't know who the model is from, but it's the model of I think we talked about this actually, this concept of being, doing, and then having. So of course you're the kind of person who wants to have wildly fulfilling long-term relationships. Are you willing to first be the kind of person that does the kind of things that gets that result? And yeah, I think it's exactly what you're talking about, man. It's like, yeah, we'll see. Like, do you want to be the kind of person that would contribute to and enjoy existing in a 5-factor community? We'll see. Like, you have to become that person. Yeah. And that's done behaviorally on a consistent basis.
I could even see it working as like, you sort of, when you were to first come into it, it's almost like an apprenticeship program where basically you rent for a year or 2 years. And then once you do that, then you're like, everybody around's like, yes, this makes sense. Yeah. You fit, you want to be here, ... And now you're because then it does give you enough commitment to do all the things that you're talking about, Jameson, but it actually kind of removes some of the logistical hurdle of the buying and selling and all of that stuff that would just like have to come along with it. But if you were to first, like, if there was an entry point and say, okay, at the end of a year, at the end of 2 years, yes, no, come or go. I think that would make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Be a cool way. Yeah. It's also a timeshare opportunity.
Yep. Yeah. It's basically a giant Airbnb scheme. That's what we're setting up here. The one thing that I think I just want to hit on, because I think it's really interesting, is like, there's 3 things in this conversation that kind of keep bubbling up a little bit, which is this idea of like shared effort or struggle, shared experience, and shared values. Is there anything else worth talking about in terms of like the connection of those 3 things, or the bringing together of those 3 things that would make a community like this, a neighborhood like this, what it ultimately could be?
You said effort, values, and struggle?
Yeah, or struggle, experience, and values. And the effort and struggle is kind of like, there's something interesting in there. Like, I don't know that it's just, we train 6 days a week together, and that's the effort/struggle, just like we see in the gym all the time. That's such a powerful connector. Or if it's, hey, we also do this together. I don't know. I think that could also be an interesting thing.
I think that that's super interesting, and that would probably yield to the level of this thing, right? Is it actually like more like a commune? Are we raising crops and livestock together, right? Are we running a business together? That's not the way I envisioned this. That to me is then getting into that next level with James talking about, is like, okay, then who's kind of like regulating this thing? Who's like saying like, you're not doing your job, you're fired. But I think that the more ritualistic it became, right? And not like we all, face the sun and kneel and bow and
kill the goats together.
Right. But more in terms of like you started off with this, Patrick, is we all do. This is when we train together.
Yep.
Right. This is when we have a meal together. This is when we. And it doesn't have to, the other part is like, it doesn't have to be everybody, every time, everything. It's more like if you went to one of those holistic health retreats. They have these in like Western Mass. They probably in Tennessee as well, Jameson, where you go and there's a gazillion different options. And you're like, you could sign up for one every hour, every day to do everything. Or you could go and just get cucumbers on your eyeball, have someone rub your temples, wearing a robe, and take the rest of the week
wearing
is
the
like,
robe, or are you wearing the robe? Who's wearing the robe in this situation?
And so I see it kind of like that is there are these things, and
it's
I think
sort of
that
a perpetual
people gravitate,
menu of options.
Yeah, and people gravitate towards certain ones, right? So some people gravitate towards the garden. Other people gravitate towards the hikes.
Yep.
Other people the meditations. Other people the fireside chats, and the other ones the men's groups and the book clubs.
And somebody loves the cooking and
the workout. Exactly. Yeah. So I kind of see it like that type of thing. Funny enough, Heather and I, we just got a barn. So we're kind of like thinking about this in a much smaller scale, right?
Everybody meet up at Ben's barn.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to shift gears just a little bit.
But that's skipping steps. We didn't do steps 1, 2, and 3. We just went right to the barn.
That makes sense.
This is so like my MO, right? It's like, let's just go. Just go.
All right, I want to shift gears just a little bit, because I do kind of want to get at the school thing, because Ben, I think there's some stuff there worth talking about. But I want to first start. I want to bridge into the schools by talking about kind of families and parenting a little bit, because one of the things that I think this scenario or setup does really nicely, and you guys know this as well as anybody, is like, what is the biggest barrier in today's world to all the things we talk about all the time, all the habits, all the activities, all the actions, etc. And it's often, I don't have enough time to do that. I don't have enough time to work out 5 days a week. I have to also make my own food, and I have to find time to connect with my significant other and my kids and my neighbors and all the other things. And one of the things that this does really, really nicely, at least for parents, is it builds a community and a neighborhood in which you are not constantly parenting your kids, which sounds weird, except when you recognize that our parents were not parented to the degree that our kids are parented. My father, my mother, and even me to a degree, was sent out into the neighborhood to find the gang of kids who also live there. And my parents could do the things that parents need to do, whether it was clean the house. They obviously weren't working from home, but doing all the things that have to get done for a house not to implode. But one of the things I really like about this is that it creates a community of eyeballs to watch the community of kids, such that parents now have the time to do the things that they say, especially if they're in this neighborhood, that they say are important to them, right? And so it's this weird thing that I think is back to kind of what my question was earlier about, what are we lacking that makes this so appealing to us? And it's that we've set up a culture where none of us have enough time to do the things that we know, or at least we say matters. And so creating something like this, putting yourself in an environment like this, knocks down what I think is the biggest barrier, which is, how am I supposed to do these things, even if I say that they are important?
You know what I love about what you said is, like, how cool it would be to be in that environment where your kids are, first off, that they're safe. Secondly, that they're with other really good kids.
Yep.
Right. Thirdly, that if they are at someone else's home, that they're not on video games, that they're not on screens, that they're not eating,
Doritos
goldfish and Doritos and Pop-Tarts. Like, you just, like, everyone that has a shared value, that'd be like, man, like, that is okay. After this call, guys, we're gonna have a little brain session of, like, how to actually do this thing. But I agree with you, Patrick. It's like one of the big things is I'll raise my hand first. Like, I don't have the time to.
Yep.
And that would be, I think, one of the big things that we would want to instill in this is we lead busy, free lives. This place is not busy.
Yeah.
You're not overscheduled, not overcommitted, not running from meeting to meeting, from kids thing to kids thing, from job to this
game.
Status game, exactly right.
Yeah.
It is, we're going to enjoy the small moments and the things that other people don't. And I, again, think it just comes down to values. It's where when you said, like, effort and struggle, values, that's why I think that when you start there, when we start with values, it just, like, it filters through and fixes so many other things.
We're sponsored this time around by Masa Chips, creators of the delicious tortilla chips made with 100% grass-fed beef tallow that supports your journey toward peace of mind through better nutrition. Head to masachips.com/excellence. That's MASA chips.com. Enter the code excellence for 25% off your first order. The foods we consume daily are fundamental to our health freedom, which is why it's concerning that seed oils now make up 20% of the average American's calories. These industrial seed oils have been linked to inflammation and metabolic health issues that can undermine our wellness journey. Masa decided to take action by creating chips with just 3 clean ingredients: organic nixtamalized corn, sea salt, and 100% grass-fed beef tallow. With Masa, you're not just avoiding harmful ingredients, you're getting chips that are tastier, crunchier, and sturdier enough to hold up to your favorite dips or guacamoles. To take action toward better nutrition choices today, visit masachips.com/excellence. Use the code excellence for 25% off your first order. That's masachips.com, masachips.com/excellence. We're sponsored this time around by Element, makers of the cleanest, most effective electrolyte drink mix that's helping folks worldwide optimize their health and performance. Visit drinkelement.com/excellence to claim your free Element sample pack with any order you make through that link. When we talk about the 5 factors of health, training and nutrition are right there at the top of the list, and proper hydration plays a crucial role in both. That's where Element comes in. They've created a perfectly balanced electrolyte mix with the exact minerals you need and nothing that you don't. With the summer months upon us, their new lemonade salt flavor is lovely. It's the perfect blend of tart and salty. Some people say I am also the perfect blend of tart and salty that makes staying hydrated actually enjoyable. Whether you're pushing through tough workouts, maintaining a low-carb lifestyle, or practicing intermittent fasting, Element helps you stay on top of your game with zero sugars and zero artificial ingredients. Claim your free Element sample pack by visiting drinkelement.com/excellence and ordering any of their tasty offerings. If you really zoom all the way out to the point, and Ben, we've had this conversation before, but why the 5 factors of health? In many ways, it's to reduce stress and increase peace of mind, right? And so that's really what this, in an ideal form, in an idyllic form, that's what we're trying to build, is a space in which peace of mind is prioritized and stress, in all the ways that stress shows up, is decreased as much as is feasible, or at least that the sort of the kind of stress that too many people feel. Stress to a degree is great. Stress is fantastic. Stress makes us better, but it's the chronic stress that we've talked about that our culture does not work to decrease, but in a situation like this, a context like this, would work actively to decrease.
Yeah, I think when I think about this environment in particular, that the peace of mind thing is massive. I feel like the two things we're trying to accomplish here that ladders up to or leads to this type of communal experience that we're envisioning is at an individual level, people joining the environment with a personal peace of mind and a presence of soul. And those two things are so eliminated by the natural order of our modern society. Things are constantly pulling at both of those things. And
give me it again, Jameson. Peace of mind and presence of soul.
Yeah,
what do you mean by presence of soul?
Yeah, so those two things I feel like are components of what exists inside of a person. That if your mind is wandering, or you have been so busy that your soul, meaning, I know that can mean different things for different people, but the very just general internal essence of who you are as a person, that it feels a bit intangible, it can't catch up to your body. You're moving at such a pace that you're not fully there for it. And I think everybody knows what that feels like, though I think it feels differently for a lot of people, and people would use different words to describe it. To me, it's my mind is not at peace and my soul is not present in the moment that I am in. So I am therefore not really being a whole person that exists in this present reality. So of course, I'm not really going to either contribute to or receive from this environment that I'm in. And I think that the 5 factors are to go back to what Ben was saying regarding it not being regulated or rule-based, the 5 factors are really a prescriptive way of living. It is a better way to live. And it is fundamentally rooted in a singular, kind of foundational truth of honoring our biology as human beings, and then also respecting that there's also more to us as human beings than just biology. And it's controlling what we can control so that we can better let go of what we can't. And all of which is just this kind of prescriptive way of life that I think allows us to have more peace of mind and presence of soul in whatever moment we find ourselves in. And I feel like if we're going to wildly oversimplify an example, a manifested or tangible example, it's why someone being on their phone while in the room with us bothers us so much, or why we do the same thing, because our mind is pulled in so many directions and we're so distracted and we're so uncomfortable by just being. We can't just be anywhere anymore. That we need to be somewhere else because we're so uncomfortable inside of ourselves that we have to distract ourselves. And so instead of being able to sit in a room with Patrick or sit in a room with Ben, I need a thing to distract me from myself, which is therefore going to mean, well, I'm not really here present with Ben or Patrick either. And so when you gather together, that's so cool, to know that in this environment that Ben, that you've been in at this club, people not being on their phones is a major sign of health. presence of mind, or presence of soul and peace of mind. If you can be in a room with other human beings and not have your phone on you and not be distracted by your phone, this is a lot of how you as a person regarding your own like identity. So yeah, I think the 5 factors, man, for me have been this prescriptive way of going, what is pulling you out of being peaceful and present in this moment, which is therefore robbing you of the ability to make an impact on the people around you, or just frankly, enjoy the people around you. And how do you eat, sleep, train, think, and connect in a way that takes back agency over those things? Because there's going to be plenty of stuff that you don't have agency over, but you can control a lot of it through curating your environment. And that environment is not just this like commune that we're talking about. That environment is also internal in a lot of ways, and it has to do with your own disciplines and behaviors. So I think the peace of mind and the presence thing is massive. Without that, without every individual having that, you're going to have little success in coming together as a community to have it as a whole.
Segue a little bit as we close this conversation to the school idea. Ben, I've been, it's sort of randomly, but I'm reading the book Spark for the first time, even though it came out like, I don't know, 20 years ago. Spark is that book that sparked this idea of like getting kids to move before school, because what they found is getting kids to move before school improves their ability to pay attention and conjugate and all the things like that our brain needs to do to learn. So I'm reading that book. I'm also randomly learning about this thing called the alpha schools. I don't know if either of you have come across this, but I don't know exactly what they are. They're private schools. There's only a couple of them in the country, but they've been around for a little bit. And what they do is they've got this really interesting 2-hour learning model where the kids, I think it's like elementary school to maybe middle school, is they'll spend the first 2 hours of school in a classroom session or a classroom setting. But what they're doing is they're using adaptive AI to learn at their speed and not the speed of like the 12 kids around them. And so they do all of their learning, and their test scores are at the top of the rankings. So they do all their learning in this 2-hour block. And then in the afternoon, they tackle projects, they do collaborative tasks, they start businesses, they run 5Ks, they do all these, they sort of do all these interesting things that I think kind of align with some of the things that we've been talking about. So I bring all of that up just as fodder for conversation, Ben. I would love to know more about this school based on health, wealth, and wisdom, if you've got more thoughts to it.
Well, I mean, it's something that probably 2012-ish, Heather and I started exploring as like, we had young kids in elementary school at that time, and we were planning on getting pregnant and doing it all over again. We were kind of like, well, how cool would it be to create an actual school based off just the way that we think about values of life. And to me, it would come down to those 3 things. So the health is the 5 factors, right? Yep. It's getting them moving, understanding physical literacy, right? Like, what does it mean to actually have fitness, not abs, not, be able to, whatever other way people measure it, but true capacity, and get them like really fit. Like it'd be amazing, right? There's no reason that they can't anyone can't have the benefits of really high levels of physical capacity. I think it'd be amazing. Eat, you get them not only to actually eat good, awesome, amazing food, but you teach them about it and the benefits of, and you can use that as a segue into biology and chemistry and so many nature and ecology, so much other stuff that goes into that, to weather patterns and all the rest. In terms of sleep, again, you get into understanding how important that is and circadian rhythms and all the science that goes into that. In terms of thinking, getting to understand like the things that we were never taught, how the brain, how the mind works, how it interplays with your guts and vice versa, the bidirectional, what happens when you see things, when you get triggered, when things come in, how the prefrontal cortex works versus the amygdala, and just truly understanding how this thinking machinery affects us. And then connection, starting with, as James said, connecting and understanding yourself. This is what I think when we talk about connection, we so quickly go to connect with others in relationships.
Yep.
It starts with ourselves. Connect. Yeah. So what do you believe? What do you think is important? What are the stories you tell yourself? Are those true? Are they not? Where did they come from? How are they influencing your lives? Like, this idea of truly connecting with ourselves would be so powerful. And then connecting with others, emotional intelligence, perspective, mirroring, truly become active, sincere, empathetic listeners, good conversationalists, how to do public presentations and speaking, how to navigate the world with other people in it, all the way to connecting again with nature and getting out and understanding the world and minerals and rocks and water and weather and mountains and everything that comes along with that. So the health one is where the obvious principle coming from the 5 factors.
Yep.
Then I would go to wealth, and wealth would be, again, financial literacy, understanding things like budgeting, savings, compound interest, entrepreneurship, investing principles. Mm-hmm. Investing is like fitness. Like, once you understand it, it's very simple. It's not easy, but it's very, very simple. I mentioned entrepreneurship is I have people, everyone in the school would start a business. I have said this before, like, if you were to, instead of go to college costs about $50,000 a year right now, right? So that's that's $200,000 across 4 years. Imagine if instead of spending 4 years going and doing what I did, which was skiing a lot, drinking a lot, and smoking a lot, going to class sometimes. Imagine instead of doing that, if someone handed you almost $250,000 and said, I want you to start a business for the next 4 years. And at the end, it has to fail. Like because when you come out of school, you have nothing, right? At the end, when you come out of this, you're gonna have nothing. But think of the learnings that you would have along the way of starting that business versus the goofing off thing that I did in college, and whether it fails or not, we get to, meaning if it fails, okay. If it doesn't, you have to pass it along to somebody else, like that type of thing. Like, it's not the thing forever. This is your experimental time to actually try to, just like colleges, except I experimented with other things.
I experimented with pizza a lot.
Yeah. There's the freshman 15, you gain like 15 pounds your first year of college. I doubled it. I did the first semester 30.
Oh my gosh.
You've always been a high achiever, Ben. So speaking of what you did not have, wisdom, how do you get into wisdom?
Yep.
Speaking of what you did not have.
Yeah. So what is wisdom, right? Wisdom really comes through experience. So in elementary school, you're not going to have tons, or elementary school, middle school, high school. You don't get experiences. You just read from textbooks. So we'd want to give them experiences by starting businesses, getting out in the world, working for a nonprofit, going with a group of, there's a really cool place called the Island School, which is in the Bahamas or Bermuda. I
thought you were going to say Rhode Island.
No, it's at the Island School. You go down there and you don't have a phone. You don't get to call your parents the entire time. It's run by a former Navy SEAL. During the semester you're there, you either train for a half marathon, which you have to do, or a 5-mile swim.
Oh.
You also, as the culmination, have to spend 3 days in the woods by yourself. All you get is like 4 granola bars. Like, experience, right? Now, I'm not saying it needs to be that, but like, let's build a boat and sail a boat across a lake. Like, experience, like that sort of thing, with friends, with other people, like with directions and that type of thing. So wisdom.
Build a treehouse.
Build a tree. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but really what wisdom is knowledge through experience. I get it. Of what is and how to live a good life. That usually comes down to a life filled with virtue and purpose. So we have to learn about virtue and purpose, and that's going to come from philosophy. So now we're going to teach philosophy. And we're going to spend time learning about the Stoics and what the Stoics were influenced by, the ancient Greeks. And we're going to learn about courage and humility and discipline, gratitude, honesty, and perseverance. We're going to, through wisdom, we're going to learn about how to have a healthy disagreement. You don't have to agree with everybody.
So good. Yeah.
But how do you navigate that? And then, also where is your place in the world? You're one of 8 billion. What does that mean? So, this idea that knowledge is useful, but wisdom is transformational. And that's what we want to do, is give people wisdom.
Last words on this subject of building, not a cult, not maybe a neighborhood, We'll go with neighborhood. Any last thoughts, Jameson? I'd love to hear any last thoughts wrapping this up.
I think, I have a lot. I connected to what you guys were just talking about with the school, though. That's certainly not the model that I practiced, but I did grow up with a fairly unconventional, participating in a fairly unconventional approach to education. I was homeschooled my whole life, and there was a lot of travel that occurred throughout being homeschooled as well. And so if I pointed to one particular thing that I experienced most growing up that I feel like is a major advantage as an adult, it is experience. It is the wisdom that was gained that at the time I wasn't aware was wisdom until I later learned how to apply it. That came from just the things I saw, the expanded worldview, the expanded perspective, the fact that I'm the youngest by quite a bit, and I was just taken into growth environment after growth environment because I just did stuff with my family. And so I'm not amazing really at much of anything, but I do have a pretty broad skill set. I'm kind of good at a lot of stuff and just and possess a general knowledge. And people have asked well, how did you develop that? And the answer to that is what's what I spent time on as a kid. And it was by no fault or choice of my own. It's just what I did. And so as a kid growing up, I didn't really know that what I was doing was investing into my future. I was just living the life that had been curated around me by the way that my family operated. And so instead of, I certainly wasted plenty of time, don't get me wrong. And as I got older and could make my own decisions, opted for the stupid stuff instead. But as I was growing up, I just hung out with my brother who 10 years older than me was already starting businesses and learning web design. And then I learned to do those things. And I was hanging out with my 2 brother-in-laws who are a musician and a doctor. And so I'm getting my worldview expanded by what is around me. And so I feel like that just connects back to this concept of you become what you surround yourself with. Yep. And as a kid, when I didn't have the agency to decide that for myself, I feel like I was given such an advantage because of the people around me, what they decided for me that I was going to be influenced by. So I feel like that's just an argument for do school that way, do community that way, do life that way. Because as I then got past the lack of wisdom, immaturity, and stupidity stages, I then looked back and went man, I have a treasure trove here of experience I can pull from and develop wisdom out of. And that's a major advantage and gift that I was given because of the environment I grew up in. So that's just another check one for awareness, intention, and action, because it doesn't just benefit you. It is constantly benefiting the people around you as well.
The thing you said in there that stuck out to me is this idea of curation. And for you at that young stage, life was curated for you. But I think if we were to summarize or encapsulate this whole conversation, it's the idea of can we build an environment that creates the kind of life that at least the 3 of us right now believe is one worth pursuing? And can you build the physical environment that allows anybody in that environment to have a life that is curated in this particular direction? I think that's really, really powerful.
Totally.
Cool. Jameson, always good to talk to you, my friend.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much for tuning into the show. Make sure you're subscribed wherever you're listening or watching so you do not miss another episode. For more frameworks and daily practices, visit chasingexcellence.email. And don't forget to tap the link in the show notes for today's full listener guide, where we break down the key ideas and provide actionable steps to help you put them into practice. Until next time, keep building health, finding freedom, and living with your heart on fire.
Oikos presents 15 Seconds of Strength.
Here we go. Steve's got a trunk full of groceries and no one to help him.
Oh, that's tough, Jim. Looks like a 5-trip load at least.
He grabs the first bag, the second. Bob, it looks like he's trying to do it all in one trip. He shimmies the door open, steps over the dog, oh, and he stumbles.
Oh, right into the kitchen without missing a beat. Jim, now that's a man who eats his protein-packed Oikos.
With 15 grams of complete protein in each cup, Oikos Triple Zero can help build strength for every day. Oikos, stronger makes everything better.
You're a professional web creator who needs a platform that works as hard as you do. Wix Studio is built for you, whether you're a designer, developer, or marketer ready to amplify your impact. Build intuitively with advanced design features and AI-powered tools. Manage your clients and projects efficiently from one workspace. Scale with dynamic systems and fully managed infrastructure. Create exceptional websites with hyper efficiency on Wix Studio.